During Bernie Sanders' interview with Anderson Cooper, the topic of Iran came up, and Bernie Sanders did draw comparisons between the 2003 Iraq War and what is currently happening right now with Iran. And he used this as an opportunity to call out Joe Biden, who is using revisionist history to make it appear as though he was not supportive of the Iraq War, but he was. And so Bernie Sanders talks about that a little bit in this next clip. Let's take a look.
What is imperative is that we defeat Trump, the most dangerous president in modern history. And that means you're gonna have to have a huge voter turnout. You're gonna have to get working people excited. You're gonna have to get young people excited. Joe Biden voted and helped lead the effort for the war in Iraq, the most dangerous foreign policy blunder in the modern history of this country. Joe Biden voted for the disastrous trade agreements like NAFTA and permanent normal trade relations with China, which cost us millions of jobs. You think that's gonna play well in Michigan or Wisconsin or Pennsylvania? You know, Joe Biden has been on the floor of the Senate talking about the need to cut Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid. Joe Biden pushed a bankruptcy bill, which has caused enormous financial problems for working families. So if we're gonna beat Trump, we need turnout. And to get turnout, you need energy and excitement. And I just don't think that that kind of record is gonna bring forth the energy that we need to defeat Trump.
See, I love the way he handled that answer because he threw all the appropriate jabs at Biden's record and simultaneously debunked the whole electability argument that we keep hearing over and over again in the mainstream media in regard to Biden. Oh, he's the safe candidate. He might not inspire you, but he's the safe candidate. If he doesn't inspire people, how are you gonna expect people to go to the polls to vote for him?
Yeah, normally I add a lot of things after the progressives speak, including Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. I don't have much to add to that. Finally, thank God, yes. And so part of the reason that progressive candidates don't point out the terrible record of their opponents is because of media pressure. When you do that, are you attacking Joe Biden? Yeah, I'm running against him.
Damn right.
Okay, and he has a terrible record. And I don't want you to find out in the general election. I want you to find out now so we don't lose to Trump again. But the media puts unbelievable pressure. And in fact, after Bernie said that, most of the headlines were like, Bernie attacks a fellow Democrat.
Good.
It's a primary, what the hell are you supposed to do? And so I actually think you should have done this a long time ago, but who cares? We're a month out from Iowa. It's about damn time. Yes, great, fantastic. Do that 1,000 times more. Biden's record is miserable. On the Iraq war, he pushed towards that war even more than Bush did initially. Back in '98, he's constantly talking about, we gotta attack Saddam Hussein, we gotta topple Saddam Hussein. The bankruptcy bill, finally somebody mentioned the bankruptcy bill. You know, if you're a student, you cannot discharge your debt. Donald Trump can discharge all of his debts, and he did it 6 different times. The rich can do it over and over and over again, but students cannot. Why? There's the one person most responsible for that in this country is Joe Biden. If you actually ask the reporters, I mean, they mumble under their breath. I mean, that's true. It was Joe Biden's bill, and he did screw over all of the students in this country. But I can't say it, I can't say it. That's the beloved Joe Biden, he's more electable. Students don't think he's more electable. People who are against the war, which is almost the whole country, don't think he's more electable. It's a mainstream media lie, through and through, propaganda, alternative facts. Damn straight you should call it out.
Exactly, and look, Bernie has been warming up to this moment of finally calling out Biden's record. There was an interview that he had with the Washington Post, and he said, quote, "It's just a lot of baggage that Joe takes into a campaign, which isn't going to create energy and excitement. He brings into this campaign a record which is so weak that it just cannot create the kind of excitement and energy that is going to be needed to defeat Donald Trump." And it was because of that quote that Anderson Cooper asked him to elaborate, and he gave that wonderful response to Cooper. But I do want to get into like the nitty gritty of Biden's record when it comes to foreign policy, because again, he is on the campaign trail making it appear as though he was an opponent of the Iraq invasion, but that is not the case. In fact, Ryan Grimm did an excellent job in The Intercept pointing this out. He writes, Biden publicly supported the war before, during and after the invasion, but a 1998 Senate hearing sheds additional light on his determination to confront Iraq over weapons of mass destruction. In 1998 UN weapons inspector Scott Ritter resigned in protest and accused the international community of not giving him and his colleagues the support they needed to carry out their job in Iraq, which he agreed in 1991 to destroy its chemical weapons stockpile. Ritter was called to testify before the Senate in September of 1998, where Biden grilled him. In the course of the questions, Biden made revealing remarks about where he stood on regime change in Iraq. And I want to show you a little bit of that exchange. Take a look.
Quite frankly, I think what you've done is you've forced us to come to our milk here, all of us in the United States Congress. I think you and I believe, and many of us believe here, as long as Saddam's at the helm, there is no reasonable prospect you or any other inspector is ever going to be able to guarantee that we have rooted out, root and branch, the entirety of Saddam's program relative to weapons of mass destruction. And you and I both know, and all of us here really know, and it's the thing we have to face, that the only way we're going to get rid of Saddam Hussein is we're going to end up having to start it alone, and it's going to require guys like you in uniform to be back on foot in the desert, taking taking Saddam down. You know it, and I know it. So I think we should not kid ourselves here. There's stark choices. I happen to agree with your assessment. A, that diplomacy was picked over inspection-driven confrontation. B, that there's an illusion of arms control that cannot guarantee he will have no system of, no weapons of mass destruction. And C, that as long as he's there, he's concluded he can absorb airstrikes.
And what's incredible is as the years went on, he kept, and as actual experts were telling him that there isn't evidence of weapons of mass destruction, he decided to reject what they had to say and push for war with Iraq. Ryan Grimm writes, Biden had reason to disbelieve the WMD claims. In a classified hearing on September 24th, 2002, at the urging of a staff member, Biden asked then CIA Director George Tenet what evidence of WMDs the US had technically collected. None, Senator, Tenet said, according to an account in the book Hubris by Michael Isikoff and David Korn. Biden, wondering if there was some highly classified evidence, asked Tenet, George, do you want me to clear the staff out of the room? Tenet told him no, there's no reason to, Senator. And he repeated, there's no evidence of weapons of mass destruction.
So I almost wish Joe Biden hadn't run, because I have to confess, I knew most of Joe Biden's record, but not all of it. And it turns out he's way worse and way more right-wing than I realized. So on the war on drugs, he pushed Ronald Reagan to be harsher and to lock up more people. Reagan was too soft for him on the war on drugs. On the Iraq war, there he is in 1998, you saw it with your own eyes, saying there's no other way to do it. We have to take out Saddam root and branch, and we have to get boots on the ground and go into the desert. He's pushing Republicans to go to war in Iraq. So then Tenet, right before the war, says to him, there are no weapons of mass destruction. Then Biden comes out and says, I vote for the war because of weapons of mass destruction. Turns out Biden has always been a right-winger. It's not that he's agreeing with the Republicans because, oh golly gee, I like to do compromise. He's agreeing with them because he agrees with them. Because he agrees with the Republican principles time after time after time. So you want to put a Republican back in office? That's insane. I'm not going to vote for a guy who thought the Iraq war was a brilliant idea, who voted for the Iraq war. Not only that, who pushed the Republicans into the Iraq war. Hell no is my answer. You got to, and the mainstream media, are you ever going to do your job? The Intercept is doing one brilliant article after another on this. And they're not, these are facts, these are videos, these are quotes. There's no dispute about them. How come ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post aren't doing these same stories?
Because they want him to win. They want him to win.
These are layups. These are layups. If you were an actual journalist, this is the thing that we're about to make the most momentous decision in about a month. You don't think it's relevant that Biden pushed us into the Iraq war? You don't think that those old quotes are relevant? The old quotes of Biden saying that he wants to cut Social Security and Medicare. You don't think those are relevant? You don't think it's relevant that he did the bankruptcy bill? I asked about the bankruptcy bill in the spin room to his surrogates in front of dozens of reporters. They blithely lied and said, oh, a bankruptcy bill, Biden doesn't have anything to do with that. He was the guy who pushed the bankruptcy bill. Journalists in this country, so-called journalists, are you ever going to do your job? Or do you think your job is to protect the establishment and protect candidates like Joe Biden and lie to everyone and tell them they're the more electable ones? And you should bow your head and vote for the guy who has a less chance of winning because he agrees with your Republican positions.
Ding, 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 ding. We all know what the answer is.